Welcome to week 2. In week 1, we defined culture. In week 2, we get into a little more in depth of the defining of culture. There's certainly going to be some overlap between week 1 and week 2, but I think you'll see after we finish week 2 that there's definitely been an extension of what we went over in week 1 and more depth to it. Some particular topics that you'll encounter in your reading this week. Subcultures. Cultures are not necessarily monolithic, meaning that not everyone in the organization is exactly lockstep with one another. There may be various values, assumptions that are pervasive throughout the organization that are shared by most. However, you'll find within certain departments and groups in the organization that there are subcultures, essentially cultures within a culture. So maybe the accounting department has their own unique culture. Maybe the research and development department, R&D, has their own unique culture. And these cultures are not necessarily contrary to the overall organizational culture. Sometimes they could be, though, and those would be referred to as counter cultures. But anyway, you're going to encounter subcultures this week in your reading. Your reading this week will also talk a bit about how cultures develop. Where do they come from? Sometimes the cultures are relatively recent developments that maybe it's only been within the past 5 to 10 years that they've developed in their current to their current state, or maybe it's essentially the same culture that's been around since the founding of the organization. So different factors that affect the development of culture will be discussed. Last but not least, and to me, I think this is really one of the most important aspects of the course, is how culture relates to organizational effectiveness. In other words, is culture a good thing? I would assume that it usually is or can be, but let's not always assume that culture and a given culture is necessarily related to effectiveness. So that's going to come up this week. Well, I hope you enjoy your reading for this week and the videos. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.